ones. So, since we're focusing on using more descriptive language in our evidence this week, as one optional extension activity, you can write an acrostic poem using any of our vocabulary words from the entire unit. But what is an acrostic poem, Miss Kat? Well, for an acrostic poem, you select one word and then you write that word down a piece of paper vertically. Then you choose descriptive words and phrases that have to do with that word, that start with each letter that make up that word. So, this is my example. I chose the word wavelength and I chose some descriptive words. So, descriptive language means that it's vivid and specific. That helps the reader visualize exactly what you're describing. So, here are some vivid and descriptive words and phrases I came up with. So, for wavelength, worm-like and vibrating, energetic light expands, nicely gifting the hues. So you'll notice for this acrostic poem, for some words, maybe you can just choose an adjective that can stand alone. So for example, worm-like and vibrating and energetic are all adjectives that describe a wavelength that can stand alone on their own. So you can do your entire acrostic poem just with different adjectives, or if you want to try to put different words and phrases together and make some short phrases within your acrostic poem, you can challenge to do that as well. Challenge yourself to do that as well. Here's a second acrostic poem that I wrote, and you are more than welcome to write more than one acrostic poem. I also chose the word photon, and for photon, I wrote particles hopping over and under, too tiny to see, observable with the naked eye. So you'll notice for this poem, you can even have entire phrases that start with that letter. So in this acrostic poem, everything is only one word. And for this acrostic poem, some I just wrote one word, but others I wrote more than one word after that letter. So you can be creative and you can do whatever you want within this framework. I'm going to share just one more with you before I show you all of our vocabulary words so you can think, what vocabulary word might I want to select for my acrostic poem? So for this one, I chose the word light. I wrote light ignites, generating heat tonight. So that's just an acrostic poem where I was visualizing a campfire and how light energy can get transferred into heat energy, which is very convenient for humans because it can keep us nice and warm. So, of course, if you choose a longer word, your acrostic poem will be more challenging. If you choose a shorter word, writing your acrostic poem will be less challenging. So choose a word that has a length that you think is appropriately challenging for you. And of course, you can choose to write more than one acrostic poem, either in a notebook just like I did, or if you want, you can just write it on a piece of paper, which might be nice because then you can hang it on a wall. But without further ado, here are all of our vocabulary words from the entire unit, so you can think, what vocabulary words might I want to select for my acrostic poem if I choose to do it? So, we of course have the word photon. Those are the particles that light is made up of. We of course have the word transfer. That means changing from one form to another. We have light energy. We know that light is a form of energy that travels in a vibrating wave, but is also made up of particles called photons, and we just learned the principle of selective absorption. We know that opaque and translucent objects exhibit this principle of selective absorption. That means that they absorb some wavelengths of light and they reflect other wavelengths of light. And something that is so shiny that it has an image directly in it, we call reflective. These are all words that you might want to use for your acrostic poem. We also know, of course, that a shadow will form behind translucent and opaque objects in the section where the light cannot reach, but transparent objects do not create shadow because the light does not reflect and the light does not get absorbed. The light passes through. When light passes through something, it bends, and the science word for bend is refract. That's why your feet look bigger if you've ever stood in a pool of water or if you've ever stood in the bathtub, and that's why the bottom of flowers look bigger because the light is refracting, and that's also, of course, why my eye would look bigger behind my magnifying glass. All right, almost done. We learned so many words. That's so impressive, guys. I'm so happy we learned so much. We also learned a luminous object exhibits exerts its own light. So for example, the sun or fire or a light bulb are all luminous objects, and everything else is a non-luminous object. I am a non-luminous object because I do not emit my own light. If I was in a dark room, you could not see me. We also, last but not least, learned the word wavelength. That's the size of the actual wave. So red being the largest and then violet being the smallest. And frequency means how often a wave is vibrating. So violet vibrates the most frequently, so has the highest frequency, and then the color red has the lowest frequency in the spectrum of visible light. Okay, friends, so to remind you what we're doing, you're selecting any of those words that I just shared. Maybe if you really want to, you can select another word that's relevant to the unit. For example, if you want to make an acrostic poem with the word rainbow and that inspires you, that is perfectly fine as well, as long as it's related to the unit and you are writing your own acrostic poem using descriptive words and phrases that will help us with our writing goal this week to use more descriptive language when writing our evidence. All right, friends, so I hope you have fun with that and that keeps you occupied. I hope you're pacing yourself through the activity well this week and enjoying it, and I will see you around for another extension activity. Bye.